Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Phys Ed, where we talk about all things regarding the education of physical health and activity. Today we're going to be talking about how to help students improve their participation and performance in PDHPE. Are you tired of walking into class and having several students approach you with illegitimate notes explaining why they can't play volleyball for the 5th week straight? Do you find yourself favouring that one or two students who are unnaturally gifted at every sports you teach? Have you ever thought to yourself, why is it that some students value my classes so much more than others? Well, today we're going to delve a little deeper into just why that is the case and look at what we can do as PE teachers to help improve students' participation and performance in PE. Factors which influence students' participation and performance in sport can be both physiological and psychological. Physiological factors can include an individual's ability to partake in a sport, their well-being, fitness levels, genetic disposition perhaps, external factors such as resources, environment, social support, and also the amount of practice that they've done and effort spent learning and practically participating in the activity. Funnily enough, even though these physiological factors do play a significant role in the influence of students' performance levels, they quickly become irrelevant when your students are uninterested in exercise and ironically run 100 miles in the other direction just to avoid PE.
And that's why psychological factors play a huge part when trying to understand and improve students' participation and performance in physical activity. For the purpose of trying to explain the impact of psychological variables in sport, I'm going to use the analogy of the dominoes effect. There are all these different aspects which shape a student's value system around physical exercise, and in most mainstream cases, the basis of this perspective is driven by psychological factors. There are a long list of things which impact a student's psychological motivation for health and physical education, and it's these things which are really the tipping point for determining students' participation and performance success in sports also.
So, how is that anything like collapsing dominoes, you might ask? Well, let me show you. Psychological factors influence motivation. Motivation levels impact participation. And participation strongly predicts physical activity and performance in children. Put all three together and there you have it, the dominoes effect.
Motivation has a huge impact on students' participation in sports, and because it is such a significant contributing factor, teachers are able to use it as a tool to both encourage and discourage students' interest in physical activity. So if we know that, then one might come to the conclusion that if we begin to teach in a way which positively targets those psychological factors, students' motivation should increase in our PHPE classes, and ultimately participation and performance levels will improve also.
Today we're going to be focusing on teaching strategies which target three specific areas related to motivation: perception of physical competence, enjoyment of physical activity, and social support groups. In the context of sport, perception of physical competence refers to students' personal judgment about how adequate they are in sports. The reason this perception is so important is because research shows that youth who report stronger beliefs about their physical competencies are more likely to enjoy physical activity and sustain interest in continuing involvement. In short, if students have a healthy perception of their physical competence, they will enjoy partaking in sport, and if they enjoy it, then they'll be motivated to participate in physical activity. Ultimately, this will improve their performance ability, and that is exactly what we want.
In order to form teaching strategies which effectively target students' confidence, we have to ask the question, based on what information are students developing these self-evaluations and judgments? Several studies have been completed to sort the answer to this question, and the findings available thus far suggest that students develop these self-evaluations via internal, social and outcome sources. Social sources include things such as feedback, reinforcement by parents, teachers, coaches, and evaluation by comparison to peers. Internal sources include self-referencing, enjoyment of activity, effort exerted, achievement of personal goals, and outcome sources include things such as performance statistics, fitness testing standards, external rewards, and event outcomes.
Although each of these sources is available to students participating in sports, research has found that age and gender also has a significant impact on the primary sources students access to create perceptions of self-confidence.
For example, although peer comparison and teacher feedback remain salient forms of self-judgment criteria, due to the public nature in which physical activity and sport takes place, teenagers aged 16 to 18 years depend more on the internal sources by focusing on achievement of self-set goals, attraction towards physical activity, and personal improvement as primary indicators of competence. Following are a number of teaching strategies which specifically target positive development of competence perception. Create assessment tasks which require students to record and reflect on their individual progress. Provide positive and constructive feedback during activities. Create engaging and challenging learning experiences relevant to a variety of different ability levels. Implement teaching experiences. Develop opportunities in assessment pieces for parent involvement. Have students develop set goals in relation to their personal performance ability. Provide external rewards on occasion to motivate intensity during participation. Construct teaching activities which provide students with performance statistics for self-referencing. Educate students on how they develop positive and negative self-perceptions and the impact it has on their participation in performance.
Enjoyment of physical activity is the second area which has a significant impact on students' motivation in sports. When talking about students' health and physical education, we talk about this concept of teaching students how to lead happy, healthy lifestyles, not just for the duration of the time that they're in school, but for the rest of their lives. One of the things which will determine an individual's long-term commitment to physical activity is how much they enjoy it. So let's take a look at what it is that makes sports enjoyable.
Studies have found that the following things are all robust sources associated with the enjoyment of sports: positive social interactions, support and involvement from parents, coaches and peers, self-perceptions of physical ability, social recognition of physical competence, effort exerted in learning and demonstrating skills, mastery and achievement of skills, and movement sensation.
Beyond these things, research has also found that enjoyment is situated within a larger model of motivation called the sports commitment model. This model outlines what factors influence a student's commitment to a sport and works like so.
There are 5 aspects of the sport commitment model: enjoyment, involvement alternatives, personal investments, social constraints, and involvement opportunities.
Reflecting on aspects which make sports enjoyable and the sport commitment model, we can develop various teaching strategies which will positively impact students' motivation, participation, and performance in physical activity. First off, we as teachers need to remember to create enjoyable learning experiences. So, what makes activity enjoyable? I've created a list of things which I think make class enjoyable. And when I'm planning a class, I actually ask myself the following 5 things. Number 1, is it relevant? Number 2, is it challenging? Number 3, is it achievable? Number 4, is it stimulating? And number 5, is it enthusiastic? Am I providing an enthusiastic experience for the kids to learn?
In a relation to involvement alternatives in the sport commitment model, we need to be making sure that our students are aware of the benefits of participating in sports, show them the benefits of skill mastery and enhanced physical well-being, light in them a desire to be involved. Social constraints can be used to an advantage as research shows that some young athletes are resistant to discontinuing their participation in sports for fear of losing their friends, letting down their teammates and coaches.
What does this mean in the context of a classroom? Encourage teamwork when creating teaching activities. Provide the students with opportunities to have positive social interactions with one another. And you can do that through group work. Maybe even create a reward system which requires the entire class to work together in order to be successful.
Last aspect of the sport commitment model is involvement opportunities. Teachers should be observing their students. Take note of who is involved, who isn't, who is highly capable, who is less capable. Design learning experiences to cater for all levels of motor ability and use teaching strategies which specifically target equity and access. For example, in the context of a Stage 6 class, that might mean taking into consideration different ability levels between genders, allocating time for the females and the males in the class to play separately during a game, and then combining for sports skills and drills. Social support groups is the final area which significantly impacts students' motivation for sports. Significant adults have emerged time and again as sources of physical competence and self-worth, sources of enjoyment and determinants of commitment to activity for students. Parents, teachers, coaches and peers, through their feedback, reinforcement, modelling and structuring of opportunities, have tremendous influence on students' perceptions of physical competence, enjoyment of physical activity, their self-esteem, their motivation and physical activity behaviours, such as the level, the frequency and the intensity that they put into sports.
What does this mean for our classrooms? It means where possible, teachers should be providing opportunities for positive contribution of parents, collaboration during activities amongst students, and ensure the provision of positive and constructive feedback to students during class and assessments. Well, that's all we have time for today on Phys Ed. I hope that you've learnt a variety of different strategies and ways to encourage your students in their participation and performance in your PE classes. Have a good night. See you next time.